All right, so in this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through some of the steps that I'm going to need you to take to complete this project. And the best way to do this is to have this video going on in one window while you have Google Drawing going on in the other so that you can have them going side by side, listening, watching, seeing what's going on, pausing, going back a couple seconds while you yourself are manipulating in your space. So one of the things that we're going to be doing with this project is you're going to be drawing your initials using Google Drawing. And there is a specific reason why I want to use Google Drawing for this as opposed to just like a random paint program. And then you're going to merge the letters together in some sort of design manner that makes it like your initials are a symbol. So your initials are not going to be the same as mine. You're going to need to come up with your own. You're going to need to come up with the how your symbol ends up looking. The big idea behind this is that when we're done, we're going to have a vectored image, something that if you change the size of it, it does not lose its resolution, which is an important thing for turning it into a sticker that you can put on something else. So first, what you need to do is get accustomed to how some of the drawing tools work. Now, the drawing tools are not like a free, like scribbly thing that you can erase with an eraser or anything like that. It's used through shapes and lines. So if you notice, you have the select tool, which you're going to need to get accustomed to, and then you have a tool right here that probably looks like a line to begin with. But if you click on that little drop-down arrow, you're going to see that you've got a lot of different options. Now, depending on your letters, you might do stuff in lines. Now, if you click and drag and it doesn't work, you've got to click on where it says line. If you click and drag, you'll notice that it follows along on the mouse. But if you press the shift button, it forces it to go at regular angled intervals, which can be really helpful when it comes to getting your lines straight. Okay, now I let that go and it highlighted the line, and when it did, you're able to adjust line color, line weight, if there's dashes and stuff in there, start and stop. These are less important, but the line weight is something that is important. I'm going to change it to 12 right off the bat. Now when I create additional lines, they're going to be size 12 as well. Okay? So something that you're going to want to be able to do is you're going to want to have your lines making sure that they are lining up with the other lines. So you might want to zoom in using clicking on the zoom tool to make sure that they are lined up real nicely. You can see how this one is a little off. You might click on it and drag it so that it matches up much nicer. Hey, there you go. That's really good. And then to get out of it, you can click on this zoom to fit button, which zooms out again. Okay. So one of the cool things about this is that you can highlight these different lines. You can copy them by pressing Command C and then Command V. If you need to have duplicates, like for example, if you have a letter that requires multiple lines that are the same length, like maybe the letter E, for example, if you are like me, then you can copy them so that they're relatively the same. Okay, so oops. So that's like a basic start. I've got one of my letters down. Okay, one of the nice things about having them being larger, thick lines is that when we do come up with a sticker, it prevents something that I like to call bird nesting. If you reached out to your computer screen right now and tried to peel off that letter, it's going to first still be mostly on the page. It'll probably want to stick to your finger as you try to go around the edges. If you started peeling right here, once you got to this edge, it's going to start to stick, and you might end up with a giant mass of something that doesn't look very good. Okay, having these thicker the better is going to be helpful. You might even highlight everything and change the line thickness to being something even thicker, which you might have to make some adjustments to some of the edges, but that can help. you might end up having a letter in your name that is curved. So if I click on the curve button, like right here, when you start to click, it creates a line. And if you click again, or if you click and hold, it will start to create like a bendy curve, okay? Which then if you click again, will start to curve from that point. This can make some rather artistic looking line curves, but it can also be really hard to move it around, especially if you're like, oh, I just want to bend this little bit. Well, you don't get to, okay? When you select this, it's its own individual shape that you can partially skew around if you move it around a little bit like this, but you might end up having to do something a little bit more like this, where you click and you just kind of click around in a circle to create like something that ends up looking very similar to this. So I clicked multiple times when I made that to make that thing nice and thick and big. Okay. There's a reason why I made something that looks like a letter C, even though I'm trying to make the letter G for my last name. And that is because, well, a G has some curved parts and some straight parts. So I have one thing set up, and then I can get the other part done, and then make some adjustments to see how well that works. So now that I have my letters and my name kind of synced together like this, or well, not synced together, just on this page, what might I do to merge them together into making something that looks like a symbol? Well, I can just try to drag and drop. That doesn't look very good. Don't forget about your best friend, Command Z. Maybe, what if instead of having my letter with a straight edge, what if I tried to create like a curved letter E? Well, for me, it kind of works out really nicely that I already have a curved part in my last name. So maybe I will just add another line to this. And if you look at it, you'll see that I have the letter E right there, and I have the letter G merged together. This makes a pretty decent symbol that would represent the initials in my name. So you're going to need to do some things to make this into your initials that is cohesive together. You might try figuring out how some letters might end up working together if they have a shared border, okay? Like if you have two A's in your name, those are both letter A, right? Those are both letter A and they share a border, okay? So you might start looking for, where do the lines go in your initials? How can you add letters in there so that they match up next to each other? If you have something that starts like this, maybe it continues on to create an S. Who knows? I'm going to leave that up to you to figure out how to best make your letters in your name fit. How can you have straight lines intersect with curved lines? When you're done, you want to make sure that you title your project, because you're going to need to be able to download this later as a PNG image for what we're going to be doing later. So play around, enjoy, and figure out what's going to work best for your letters.